Who would have thought that this cute little guy would be able to stand against hundreds of enemies? Just as Jin-Woo's attention is divided, the insect monarch launches a surprise attack, slamming Jin-Woo into the ground. Before Jin-Woo can react, countless icy attacks rain down on him. Jin-Woo holds his short sword defending himself, while the Frost Monarch excitedly taunts him, "Let's see how long you can hold on against our assault!" As soon as the words leave the Frost Monarch's mouth, a dagger strikes him in the chest. "Talkative, aren't you?" Jin-Woo says. "I've already told you, today is your demise!" The furious Frost Monarch roars angrily, unwilling to accept defeat from a human. At this point, Jin-Woo becomes somewhat impatient, as even striking the heart seems to have no effect on the enemy. What could their weakness be? Just as Jin-Woo is about to teach the Frost Monarch a lesson, the Beast King suddenly appears behind him, summoning a massive wolf fang blade and striking Jin-Woo, causing a painful scream to echo across the battlefield. Seeing this, Baru tries to help, but is trapped by the insect monarch's grip. Is this how it all ends? Baru, suspended in the air, shouts angrily, "You fools! What are you doing? Hurry up and help our king!" At this moment, Iron, with his red eyes glowing, breaks free from the ice and says, "I'll deal with these despicable enemies!" Soon after, other powerful shadow soldiers, such as Egress and Greed, manage to free themselves as well. Although the Shadow Army is indeed strong, the enemy taunts, "You're injured too badly. What can you do against us?" Jin-Woo pretends to be more injured than he actually is, giving the enemy a false sense of hope. Under their terrified expressions, Jin-Woo uses status recovery skills and stands tall. His terrifying killing intent fills the air, and the pitiful monarchs prepare themselves for a brutal showdown. The intense battle between Jin-Woo and the three great monarchs continues, leaving even top-ranked hunters like Reinhard Nierman astonished. Centered around Jin-Woo, it's as if a storm has erupted. Thomas, who is being treated at the side, remains concerned about the battle. No one has ever seen such a terrifying scene. Although Baek Yoon-ho knew that Jin-Woo was a hunter capable of continuous growth, he didn't expect him to become so powerful in such a short amount of time. At this moment, the Shadow Army's generals are doing their best to fight against the three great monarchs, with Baru trying to break free from the insect monarch's grip. Jin-Woo silently teleports behind the insect monarch, saying, "My generals are mine to discipline. It's not your place to interfere." As he speaks, he delivers a powerful cross slash, defeating the insect monarch. On a distant rooftop, Lin Zigu is watching the thrilling battle. Though elite snipers have been deployed around the area, a battle of this scale seems beyond their capabilities. Moreover, even the national authorities and hunter Thomas Andre are unable to handle these monsters. Suddenly, on the top of a building, Lin Zigu's thoughts are interrupted as he instinctively shoots behind him. What could have surprised him so much? The scene shifts. Hunters gather together to hunt down monsters and seek refuge, but not a single person dares to step into the battle unfolding before them. Everyone can only stand silently in place, praying for a favorable outcome. The insect monarch, previously sliced into a circular shape by Jin-Woo's cross-slash, is infuriated and charges at Jin-Woo with fangs bared and claws outstretched. However, Jin-Woo uses the ruler's authority to control the insect monarch's movements. Under the powerful binding force, the pitiful insect monarch can only await its doom. As the monarch looks on in terror, Jin-Woo unleashes a flurry of chaotic slashes, reducing the insect monarch to a pile of fragments in an instant. Only then does it truly understand the meaning of death. Even the monarch born from darkness cannot help but admire the power of Jin-Woo's shadow energy. And so, with Jin-Woo's impressive figure in the background, the era of the insect monarch comes to an end, returning to the void from whence it came. In the distance, the Frost Monarch can hardly believe what's happening before his eyes. The once ruling Shadow Monarch has brought fear to them once again, while the Beast Monarch arrogantly thinks that an incomplete monarch could possibly stand against them. Baru is tightly choked and unable to move, and Jin-Woo also senses his connection with Baru weakening. Jin-Woo, however, cannot recall Baru. and sensing that something is terribly wrong, he rushes to save Baru, barely managing to protect the poor creature. The Frost Monarch can no longer hold back. He fully transforms into a spiritual form and haughtily tells Jin-Woo, "Human, you are too confident in your unknown magical power. Your pitiful soldiers will only become thunder that corrodes your magic." As soon as he finishes speaking, the Frost Monarch wields his long spear and with a slight flick lifts Jin-Woo into the air before violently smashing him towards the ground. As the dust clears, Jin-Woo seems to have vanished. Suddenly, Jin-Woo strikes from the side, but the Frost Monarch manages to dodge and sends Jin-Woo flying again. Unexpectedly, his speed is increased significantly after transforming into a spiritual form. It seems Jin-Woo must end this battle quickly, and an intense fight is inevitable. During the combat, Jin-Woo gradually adapts to the enemy's speed, just a little faster, and Jin-Woo will have a chance to counterattack. The Frost Monarch also senses that something is off and instantly switches his weapon to a dual-wielding form. With a powerful swing, Jin-Woo's speed has already surpassed him. Just as Jin-Woo thinks he seized the opportunity, the Frost Monarch grins and things take a sudden turn. With everyone in shock, the Beast Monarch, who had been overlooked, successfully launches a surprise attack. Well played. The Mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the Oriole behind. The Beast Monarch's sharp claws have completely pierced through Jin-Woo's body and blood spurts out. Before Jin-Woo can react, he's hit in the heart by the Frost Monarch again. The Frost Monarch smugly tells Jin-Woo that he probably won't have the chance to see the scene of their army invading Earth. By then, human corpses will pile up like mountains, his nation will be turned upside down, and the family he protects will cease to exist. "Despise me in your death, and I will be very happy," says the Frost Monarch. At this moment, the system informs the player that their health has reached 0 and the player has died. Just as Jin-Woo is engulfed by endless darkness, the power of the Black Heart shows itself once more, and an unknown passive skill is triggered. A golden light appears and Jin-Woo suddenly opens his eyes, startled by what just happened. He clutches his chest and pants heavily. Was everything that happened just a dream? He finds himself in a hospital, clearly having been stabbed in the heart, yet he's still alive. At that moment, Woo Jin-cheol enters the hospital room with the monitoring division staff. Jin-Woo hurriedly asks about the battle, confusing Woo Jin-cheol. After regaining his composure, Woo Jin-cheol tells Jin-Woo 3 things. First, he's not the association chairman, but the chief of the monitoring division. Second, Jin-Woo needs to explain the moving stone statues in the double-layered dungeon. Third, he wonders how Jin-Woo knows his name, as they don't seem to know each other. No wonder the scene before him feels so familiar. Jin-Woo has returned to the time he survived the double-layered dungeon. Just as Chief Woo is about to continue questioning, Jin-Woo asks for some time alone to collect his thoughts. When Jin-Woo checks the system, he finds that his level and items are still there. His sister also comes to visit him in the hospital, though she's unsure if she entered the right room because of Jin-Woo's appearance. As they leave the hospital room, Jin-Woo turns to Han Song-yi and tells her not to become a hunter just because she doesn't want to go to school. Then, Jin-Woo calmly analyzes the situation. Only the Shadow Army is missing, while everything else still exists. How did he return to the past? The scene shifts, and Jin-Woo heads directly to the Hunter Association, tests as an S-rank hunter, and then rushes to the high-level meeting area. On the way, he encounters the mischievous Kang Tae-shik, and Jin-Woo directly warns him that hiding his invisibility skill might not be a good idea. Just as Kang Tae-shik is about to draw his dagger, Jin-Woo has already taken it away. Jin-Woo warns him not to harm hunters underground, and that he's only giving one warning. Watching Jin-Woo's departing figure, Kang Tae-shik falls deep in thought. When Jin-Woo arrives at the chairman's office, he struggles to contain his emotions of reuniting after a long time. Jin-Woo then states his intention to go to Jeju Island and eliminate the ant nest. Upon hearing Jin-Woo's request, the association chairman is visibly shocked and is about to refuse when he's intimidated by the young man's overwhelming power. The terrifying magical energy Jin-Woo emits surpasses national authority and other hunters. The system continuously prompts Jin-Woo about whether he wants to restart each event as he clears them one by one. Jin-Woo quickly deals with the gate mutation incident, saves the 4-member Hunter Association team, and later successfully heals his mother. Next, he returns to Jeju Island and clears the ant nest. The various commanders of the Shadow Army are gradually recalled. As Baru kneels before Jin-Woo, he sighs in resignation, realizing that everything is just an illusion. "How long do you plan to hide behind the scenes? Why don't you show yourself now that I've seen through your deception?" As the surroundings grow quiet, Jin-Woo returns to the dark world, where a message asking if he wants to restart the world appears. Something slowly emerges from the void of darkness. "Are you the true monarch of shadows? What is really going on here?" In reality, the deceased Jin-Woo encounters the monarch of shadows in a dark illusion. The monarch tells him that as long as Jin-Woo is willing, he can live forever in this world, where the beautiful dream will never shatter. Jin-Woo seriously asks if the monarch intends to trap him within this illusion, but in truth, everything is a product of Jin-Woo's own desires. His past mistakes are conjured through intense longing in order to correct them. This place offers eternal rest and will be Jin-Woo's ultimate end. The ever-changing appearance of the monarch of shadows reflects Jin-Woo's resistance against his past. Jin-Woo has come closer to death than anyone else, and his strong self-awareness is his unique trait. In this world, he can do whatever he pleases. The tremendous and terrifying power allows him to achieve anything he desires. Although it can only be used within his own domain, it can create destruction and even change the world. This is the power of omnipotence. The Monarch of Shadows has been waiting for this moment for a long time. He is the king of the undead, capable of wielding the power of death and ruling the profound darkness. However, Jin-Woo cannot understand why he was chosen as the Monarch of Shadows, becoming increasingly confused. The Monarch decides to reveal the beginning and the end of their story, as well as Jin-Woo's own origin. The scene shifts. In reality, Jin-Woo has stopped breathing, and everyone can no longer sense his presence. Baek Yoon-ho finds it difficult to accept Jin-Woo's death, wondering who can fight against the enemies without him. As everyone remains silent, a terrifying shadow power suddenly radiates from Jin-Woo's frozen body, and the black heart within his chest beats powerfully. The monarchs of frost and beasts panic. If the false monarch of shadows dies, the true monarch of shadows will descend upon the world, and they cannot allow this to happen. They rush towards Jin-Woo in a frenzy. However, before they can get close, the monarch of beasts is kicked away, turning into a meme-worthy expression, and the monarch of frost is also struck and sent crashing into a pile of rocks. A strange man suddenly appears, standing protectively in front of Jin-Woo. As the camera zooms in, it turns out to be Jin-Woo's long-lost father, Jin-Han. He emits an overwhelming and powerful aura, saying fiercely, "No one gets close to my son." Meanwhile, the Monarch of Shadows is explaining the origin of everything to Jin-Woo. In another world, an existence known as the Absolute Being creates divine messengers using fragments of light and 8 monarchs using fragments of darkness. However, these monarchs plot to destroy the world, leading to an endless war with the divine messengers. The most brilliant fragment of light, tired of the war, questions the Absolute Being, asking why they don't grant their soldiers the power to crush the darkness directly. The Absolute Being remains silent. The most brilliant fragment of light sees through everything, realizing that the war between itself and the monarchs is merely a farce to the Absolute Being, and that in fact, he didn't want the battle to end. Everyone is trapped in the laws of worshipping, praising, and proving their faith in the deity. Regardless of which side, the eventual outcome is annihilation. As long as the Absolute Being exists, the war will never end. Thus, the most brilliant fragment of light rebels, but due to its limited forces, it is eventually defeated by the divine messengers. Just when everything seems to be over, the most brilliant fragment of light awakens in the darkness, discovering a special power hidden within it by the absolute being. The dark and terrifying power emanates, and the reborn fragment of light becomes the true monarch of shadows. Leading a new army, he returns to the battlefield to turn the tide. However, when he arrives back at the temple, the absolute being has already been killed in the dimly lit hall, and everything has come to an end. The absolute being dies at the hands of the remaining fragment of light, who called themselves the new gods, or the rulers, and then uses weapons containing the power of the absolute being to attack the monarchs. The monarch of giants falls into the hands of the rulers, and the power balance between the two sides collapsed. Lacking a significant force, the other monarchs begin to seek an alliance with the monarch of shadows, as they need to join forces to fight against the rulers. From that moment on, he is no longer a fragment of light or a divine messenger, but the monarch of shadows, joining the battle. His army can offer eternal life over a long period of time, making the power of the Shadow Army comparable to that of the Monarch of Destruction's army. As a result, not only the rulers but also the monarchs become more vigilant towards him. The two powerful monarchs, who once feared him, betray the Monarch of Shadows and launch a surprise attack. The overwhelming power turns against him. The Monarch of Demons, Baran, paid a heavy price while the Monarch of Beasts abandoned his soldiers and fled. At this point, the rulers surround the Monarch of Shadows, but instead of attacking, they come to apologize. They could have sent the Monarch of Shadows back to the Void, but they choose reconciliation as a sign of respect for their former comrade, who was the greatest among them, and once led the Army of Light. However, the Monarch of Shadows cannot understand that the rulers have also betrayed the Absolute Being. As he angrily grabs one of the rulers, they say helplessly, "You know better than anyone how we felt when we betrayed our master. All we want is to end this long war. Won't you forgive us?" Please calm down. The greatest fragment of light. Thus, all the rulers and soldiers hold their chests in the highest state of reverence. The Monarch of Shadows continues, "I was overwhelmed at the time and couldn't give an answer, so I hid myself for the sake of revenge. Since I had trapped the demon monarch within me, I was planning on striking the forces of the beast monarch after letting my body recover. But during my hiding, the monarchs who had suffered heavy losses were ultimately defeated by the rulers. And when I reappeared in front of the monarchs, who took their chances to escape to the crack between the dimensions, the Monarch of Destruction did not permit any king of fighting, knowing that it was time for them to recover their strength, and as such, he gladly allowed me to join his forces. All the monarchs avoid the rulers' gazes and search for a world where they can cultivate their fighting power, and they choose the Earth. Jin-Woo looks at the abandoned city engulfed in flames, thinking it's a vision of the future, but in reality, it's something that has already happened in the past. By the time the rulers realize the monarch's movements and rush to Earth, it's already too late. The rulers, furious, use the Cup of Reincarnation, imbued with the Absolute Being, to reverse time by 10 years. They do their best to save the world, but Earth is too fragile to withstand the war between the rulers and the monarchs. Thus, they continuously channel magic power into Earth's gates and awaken the awakened ones, ensuring that a small portion of humanity can survive after the war to sustain Earth's vitality. Jin-Woo cannot imagine how humanity will react when they learn the truth, and he is shocked that his world has been destroyed so many times and then restored under the influence of the Cup of Reincarnation. However, the use of the sacred tool is limited, and once its power completely disappears, Earth's destruction will be irreversible. Inspired by the rulers' methods, the monarchs let humans defeat magical beasts and spread magical power. Before the rulers arrived on Earth, the monarchs, planned to use the magical energy that was spread around the planet by the rulers to turn the entirety of Earth into one large trap, so that they could devour the rulers' armies coming to aid humanity in one go. For a sovereign who possesses incredible power to cross over into this world, they need a host body who is able to handle their power. However, the power of the Monarch of Destruction and the Monarch of Shadows is too immense, and they haven't found a vessel capable of holding it. It's at this time that the top mage tells him that he can find a suitable vessel for him, but only if he helps turn the mage, known as the Architect, into an immortal being. In addition to having excellent physical fitness, the vessel must possess great mental strength. Jin-Woo, an unexpected candidate, enters their sight. Although Jin-Woo was weak before, his mental strength allows him to survive near-death experiences, and the Monarch of Shadows is sure of his choice. As a result, the Architect uses humanity's favorite and most adept method to help Jin-Woo adapt to the Monarch of Shadows' power, designing the system like a game, allowing Jin-Woo's body to gradually match the Monarch of Shadows. However, in the end, the Monarch of Shadows betrays the Architect, who works under the Monarch of Destruction. Facing the ruler's apology and the Monarch's betrayal, the Monarch of Shadows has never been sure which side to stand on. He genuinely enjoys his time with Jin-Woo, and it wouldn't be surprising if either of them becomes the master of the body. So the Monarch of Shadows decides to leave the choice to Jin-Woo, allowing him to decide whether to stay in the realm of death, living forever in a beautiful dream of his creation, or return to reality to continue fighting the enemy. Jin-Woo calmly asks the Monarch of Shadows, "Since you're not on the side of the rulers and unwilling to fight them, why did you escape to another world with the monarchs?" The Monarch of Shadows softly replies that it's not his place to be, which is also Jin-Woo's own answer. At this moment, the Monarch of Shadows transforms into the appearance of the Chairman Go and bids farewell to Jin-Woo with a smile, returning to his eternal rest. Jin-Woo will live on forever as the Monarch of Shadows. He closes his eyes, feeling the power of the Monarch of Shadows with his heart, ready to return to reality and continue fighting the terrifying enemy, Arise. The Monarch of Shadows returns to nothingness, giving all his power to Jin-Woo's system, which is self-deleting, removing power restrictions, and promoting all commanders. The ability value of the Shadow Soldiers increases. In the final burst of light, a powerful and frightening surge of magical power erupts in the real world. The Frost Monarch and the Beast Monarch barely withstand the storm's assault, believing that the true Monarch of Shadows is about to be born. They angrily shout at Jin-Woo's father, "The worst disaster is coming from the body of the human you are trying to protect. Are you really trying to bring disaster upon this world by your own hands?" Left with no choice, the Beast Monarch and the Frost Monarch fight Jin-Woo's father. Although the two-on-one situation is disadvantageous, he is fighting for his son, and as a father, he will not back down. As the two monarchs attack, Jin-Woo's father swiftly dodges their combined assault and counterattacks, using his short sword to repeatedly wound them. The Frost Monarch never expected Jin-Woo's father to figure out his moves and follow his weapon's movements. He's a seasoned warrior who doesn't falter against the Beast Monarch's attacks either. Just as the Frost Monarch prepares to unleash his frost breath, Jin-Woo's father delivers a powerful kick, sending him crashing into a building. The Beast Monarch tries to launch a sneak attack but finds his mouth pierced by a dagger. A pained scream follows from the Beast Monarch. Before he can catch his breath, Jin-Woo's father lands an elbow strike, forcing him to retreat. Just as the Beast Monarch prepares to counterattack, a terrifying pressure pins him to the ground. He looks back in horror. At this moment, Jin-Woo's eyes emit a wild red glow as his magical power spreads wildly, scaring the Beast Monarch to retreat over 100 meters away. Meanwhile, the Frost Monarch, unaware of the situation, arrogantly prepares for a second attack, but is stopped by the shivering Beast Monarch. "You idiot! Can't you tell the magic power around us is increasing? The Monarch of Shadows is coming!" The panicked Beast Monarch summons a portal, ready to escape. The two monarchs are in disarray, as facing the terrifying Monarch of Shadows makes the Alliance less important than their own survival. The Frost Monarch taunts the so-called King of Beasts for wanting to flee with his tail between his legs. The Beast Monarch offers a final piece of advice. If you haven't seen the true power of the Monarch of Shadows, you won't understand. Good luck. And so, one of the three monarchs is killed. Another flees in disarray, leaving only the Frost Monarch, who is furious and desperate. In a last-ditch effort, he plunges his weapon into the ground and uses all his magical power. A terrifying frost storm is about to arrive, with hunters nearby evacuating to avoid it. Cars and rocks on the ground are swept into the air. Jin-Woo's father assumes a defensive stance to protect his son behind him. As the ice swords are blocked one by one, the Frost Monarch's anger intensifies. How dare a mere human defy me? Then you shall be trapped in eternal frost along with the Monarch of Shadows. As the camera pans out, a massive block of ice appears above the city, threatening to wipe out everyone nearby. Distracted Jin-Woo's father accidentally gets slashed in the arm by an ice sword. Just as the ice block is about to hit the ground, a black figure suddenly appears and intercepts it. It's our beloved Baru. Is the Frost Monarch's last struggle so weak? Igris also appears, protecting Jin-Woo's father. The poor Frost Monarch stands in shock, realizing that the Shadow Soldiers have regained their commander-level power, meaning the Monarch of Shadows has already been born. At this moment, both Baru and Yigrita kneel down in submission as Jin-Woo, surrounded by terrifying magical power, slowly walks forward. Under the Frost Monarch's horrified gaze, Jin-Woo unleashes the power of the Monarch of Shadows domain. The camera gradually pulls away, showing the dreadful magical power covering the entire city. Despite this, the domain continues to expand from the city to the continent and eventually enveloping the entire Earth. Faced with the overwhelming power difference, the Frost Monarch can only stand in place, awaiting punishment. But he is unrepentant, attempting to escape while Jin-Woo is distracted searching for the fleeing Beast Monarch. He naively believes that being distracted in front of an enemy is foolish, not realizing that he is being overlooked due to his weakness. The Frost Monarch uses all his magical power to launch one final attack, hurling his weapon. However, Jin-Woo effortlessly raises one hand, and the so-called desperate attack bends and twists the Monarch's weapon without affecting Jin-Woo. How is this possible? Is this the true power of the Monarch of Shadows? Jin-Woo coldly tells him, "You are the last target. Stay put until I bring back the Beast Monarch." The scene shifts to the depths of the jungle, where the fleeing Beast Monarch emerges from a portal, sensing Jin-Woo's terrifying aura of death and resigning himself to await the Dragon Monarch's rescue. Suddenly, a slight movement puts him on high alert, and by the time he looks away, Jin-Woo has silently appeared beside him.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
The overwhelming power difference forces him to kneel in submission, and his mind instinctively sends out a warning. The pitiful Beast Monarch kneels before Jin-Woo, begging for forgiveness and offering to follow him. As the Dragon Monarch's army will approach soon, the Beast Monarch offers to lead his beast army to support Jin-Woo.
Jin-Woo seemingly agrees, and the Beast Monarch quickly changes his tune, believing that the real Monarch of Shadows would not be foolish enough to forgive such a crime. He thinks that by taking advantage of Jin-Woo's human emotions, he can stall for time until the Dragon Monarch's army arrives, just as he continues to flatter Jin-Woo.
Jin-Woo coldly says, "Before that, let's settle our score. You'll have 5 scars on me. If you can withstand my 5 attacks, I'll forgive you." Upon hearing this, the Beast Monarch, who had planned to feign submission, can no longer contain his rage. He unleashes his full magical power, determined to fight Jin-Woo to the death, even if it costs him everything. The foolish Beast Monarch is truly pitiable, still struggling in the face of absolute power. Jin-Woo swiftly cuts off one of the Beast Monarch's legs with a single strike. Like the Grim Reaper, Jin-Woo coldly stares at the pathetic creature and says, "4 more to go. Enjoy it slowly." The scene shifts to Baru. who is doing his best to heal the injured hunters while the Frost Monarch tries to flee but is relentlessly pursued. He has seen the Shadow Soldier chasing him before, the Death Knight Ygritte, known as one of the two wings of the Shadow Army. Surprisingly, Ygritte can display his original power, and as long as Jin-Woo's power isn't depleted, he can continually regenerate and recover. Meanwhile, the Frost Monarch is unable to restore the magic power consumed by his spirit form, and this situation isn't sustainable. Just as the Frost Monarch stops to mock Ygritte, Ygritte puts down his sword and spreads his cloak, creating a portal. Jin-Woo slowly emerges, looking impressively cool. Returning to the story, Jin-Woo throws a few severed claws at the feet of the terrified Frost Monarch, and coldly informs him that the Beast Monarch has been dealt with. Furthermore, the Insect Monarch, Beast Monarch, and news of the Frost Monarch's death serve as a warning to the other monarchs. In just a few minutes, the Beast Monarch has met his end at Jin-Woo's hands, but the Frost Monarch still refuses to give up. Just as he prepares to launch an attack, Jin-Woo's dagger pierces him, followed by another strike. The pitiful Frost Monarch tries to retaliate with an icy breath, but is instantly teleported in front of Jin-Woo, who covers his mouth with one hand. Finally, Jin-Woo delivers the fatal blow. Under Jin-Woo's cold gaze, the Frost Monarch's screams of pain grow weaker and weaker, until he eventually transforms into human form and vanishes into silence. The three great monarchs end in failure. What inheritance did the previous Shadow Monarch leave for Jin-Woo? The answer will soon be revealed. After defeating the three great monarchs, an even more terrifying disaster is the massive gate hovering above the city. It is the first time that hunters from all over the world gather, including top hunters Thomas and Liu Zhegang, who are incredibly strong. Everyone is curious about what kind of monsters will emerge from the gate. Jin-Woo gazes silently at the vortex in the sky, waiting for the gate to open with a somber expression. Cha-Hae-in has never seen Jin-Woo so tense before. As she tries to comfort him, the gate's barrier slowly shatters. Everyone prepares for battle, and to their astonishment, countless angel-like magical beasts appear, followed by three giant dragon-like creatures. The terrifying magical power emanating from the enemy leader surprises Jin-Woo. Just as everyone readies their weapons, Jin-Woo stops them. With puzzled expressions, he tells them to stay calm and not act recklessly. What happens next leaves everyone dumbfounded. The enemy leader walks towards the ground, and Jin-Woo fearlessly steps forward. Choi Jong-in cannot understand what is happening, wondering if Jin-Woo is planning to face the horde of magical beasts on the ground. As the enemy leader faces Jin-Woo, arrogance and disdain fill his face, while Jin-Woo calmly looks up at him. Suddenly, the enemy leader kneels on one knee. The Grand Marshal, Bellion, leads the Shadow Army in a salute to their king, with tens of thousands of soldiers bowing to show their utmost respect. The scene leaves everyone bewildered. Thomas doesn't forget to remind Reinhardt of the three giant dragons in the sky, any one of which could have caused humanity's extinction. Jin-Woo calmly watches the army before him, realizing that this is the true Shadow Army, the inheritance left by the previous Shadow Monarch, Ashborn. Jin-Woo is now different from before, with the Shadow soldiers he has collected merging perfectly with the previous Shadow Army, forming a massive army under his control. The scene shifts to an empty jungle, where Jin-Woo organizes the two armies for sparring and training. Injuries are not a concern, as his soldiers can recover through his power. This ingenious training method impresses even the Grand Marshal, Bellion. At this point, Baru approaches Jin-Woo, hoping to test whether he is qualified to become the Grand Marshal. This sparks Jin-Woo's interest. The duel between the two army commanders ignites the excitement of the surrounding Shadow Army soldiers, who enthusiastically cheer for both commanders. Baru starts with a roar, unleashing his full magical power. Bellion calmly raises his giant sword, preparing for battle. Jin-Woo watches and initially thinks the Grand Marshal Bellion is a strength-based warrior, assuming that Baru's agility should give him the advantage. However, to Jin-Woo's surprise, Bellion's giant sword suddenly transforms, resembling a whip, and lashes towards Baru. Busy dodging, Baru can't even get close before Bellion's blade wraps tightly around him. The fight seems to end so quickly, with Baru's attack power neutralized in an instant. Moreover, each of Bellion's attacks is powerful enough to shatter the ground. It's no wonder he was the general of the previous Shadow Army. However, Jin-Woo cannot underestimate Baru, as insects have incredible vitality. Thus, the intense battle begins. The previous Shadow Army General Bellion and the newly born Army Commander Baru compete to see who is superior. Unfortunately, whether it's strength or experience, Baru cannot rival Bellion, and he is ultimately overwhelmed by Bellion. All the Shadow Soldiers are gathered to watch the exciting battle. Even though he's been beaten, Baru refuses to admit defeat and wants to continue fighting. Jin-Woo doesn't understand why Baru is so desperate to secure the position of the army's commander. Baru simply believes that as commander, he can always be by Jin-Woo's side. It turns out that Baru is jealous. Jin-Woo reassures him by saying that the commander can stand on his right, while Baru can stand on his left. Baru is deeply moved by these words. Ygritte, possibly influenced by his time with Baru, also joins the commotion and challenges Bellion. Jin-Woo rejects his request, telling him to stand back instead. Ygritte is secretly delighted, while Ygritte feels wronged, but too embarrassed to express it. Meanwhile, a large group of shadow soldiers gathers, seemingly up to something. The three great dragons roar towards the sky, and the fire columns they emit pierce the clouds, while Tusk, holding the Orb of Avarice, grins triumphantly. Under the influence of the doubled magic attack power, the dragon is awe-inspiring, and the terrifying fire columns consume the clouds in an instant. Tusk reveals a smug smile, which prompts cheers from the shadow soldiers below. Even Jin-Woo thinks using the Orb of Avarice in the competition is a bit unfair. On the other hand, the ant soldiers are busy moving things. Bellion explains that they are constructing a residence for Jin-Woo so he can rest. Feeling melancholic, Jin-Woo asks Bellion if he's sad that he'll never see the previous Shadow Monarch again. Bellion smiles and tells him that he's been the monarch's first soldier since Ashbourne became the Shadow Monarch, always serving and never doubting his judgment. Thus, the former commander and the new Shadow Monarch reminisce about the past under the beautiful starry sky. The scene shifts to the Monarch of Destruction, the King of Dragon, who is informed of the Shadow Monarch's betrayal. However, he remains unconcerned and orders the other legions not to act rashly, as they cannot afford any more losses. The dragons under the Monarch of Destruction are eager to fight, and a long-planned battle seems inevitable. Meanwhile, on Earth, a massive portal appears in the sky above China. Not only in China, but similar phenomena also occur in various parts of the world. Chairman Wu wonders if it's Jin-Woo's shadow army, but that's not the case. Jin-Woo then seriously asks the chairman if he trusts him. After receiving an affirmative response, Jin-Woo stands beside the chairman and earnestly tells him that he must also believe in what he's about to show him. The moment Jin-Woo's hand touches the chairman Woo's forehead, the memories Jin-Woo obtained from the Shadow Monarch and the truth instantly surge into the chairman's mind. Recovering from the shock, Chairman Wu can't believe that all this time, people thought that a select few were granted special powers by a divine force, becoming hunters to protect the world from monsters. It turns out that the appearance of the awakened is merely a process of cultivating a few individuals to survive in a war. This isn't a war that humans can participate in. It's a struggle between powerful monarchs and rulers. The chairman, sweating in fear, hesitantly asks Jin-Woo if he intends to fight these adversaries alone. With the chairman's help, Jin-Woo successfully gathers top hunter representatives from various countries around the world. In the images shown to the chairman, an army of dragons emerges from the depths of darkness. Their terrifying power is so great that even the combined efforts of all the world's hunters can't harm them. A single dragon is enough to plunge the world into endless flames. If the truth were revealed to the public, uncontrollable chaos would sweep across the globe, showing just how insignificant humanity is in the face of such a catastrophe. The powerful monarch of destruction, Dragon Emperor, is about to invade Earth. Representatives from countries around the world gather for an emergency meeting at Jinwoo's request. The director of the Hunter Management Bureau wishes Jinwoo could assure everyone that the upcoming operation will end successfully. However, with a serious expression, Jinwoo tells everyone that they are about to face the most difficult time, and no one can avoid this war. A powerful army of monsters will descend upon Earth and destroy everything. The representatives cannot accept Jinwoo's words. Are national power hunters unable to resist them? What evidence is there to support this claim? Seeing that everyone is doubtful, Jinwoo reluctantly uses his magic to create several portals on the podium, surprising everyone. He then explains that the enemy can also summon portals at any time, but because their army is so massive, humans have had some time to breathe. Now, all they can do is run as far away from the portals as possible. Jinwoo's words cause a massive uproar, and everyone is terrified of the approaching monster army, desperately trying to get away from the portals. When Jinwoo returns to the island where he trains his shadow army, he looks at the castle they built and falls into deep thought. He knows Baru is responsible for this and orders him to come out and accept domestication. This is the so-called dormitory he mentioned. Ignoring the size issue, he calls it a dormitory. And what is the deal with the flag on top? Before he can finish speaking, the Grand Marshal, Bellion, falls to his knees with a thud. Have they all been led astray by Baru? Ugrita, standing behind Jinwoo, tells him that they have no chance of winning in a head-to-head confrontation with the enemy. Bellion also reminds Jinwoo that the enemy's forces are nearly 100 times greater than theirs, meaning the enemy army has at least tens of millions of soldiers. The scene shifts to a top hunter from a powerful nation being interviewed, stating that he doesn't believe Jinwoo's warning and that even if monsters do attack, he can handle them. Jinwoo, watching the live interview, doesn't want to be distracted. The first threat to be eliminated is the massive portal near China, closest to Korea. He immediately heads to China to provide support. Unexpectedly, the airplane gives them a view of the portal hanging in the sky. Led by China's top hunter, Liu Zhigang, an army of 100,000 elite hunters from China appears before Jinwoo. Not only are there many of them, but their abilities are also exceptional. Suddenly, the portal quickly cracks the barrier around. At Jinwoo's command, hundreds of thousands of shadow soldiers make their dazzling appearances, leaving Liu Zhigang, who witnesses the shadow army firsthand, utterly astonished. Our little brother Baru is not happy, as he was supposed to stand on Jinwoo's left side, but Liu Zhigang has taken his spot. As everyone gasps, the portal slowly starts to break. Jinwoo looks up calmly, wondering if the war is finally about to begin. However, Bellion feels confused, as he can't sense anything. Even the signals from the shadow soldiers in other locations are the same. There's no movement at the other portals. Suddenly, Jinwoo realizes something is off. Weren't the monarchs supposed to scatter portals around the world to allow their armies to disperse? In that case, they must have concentrated their forces in the place farthest from him. Just a few hours ago, a team of hunters was assembled on the other side of the Earth to confront the soon-to-open portal, led by the overconfident top hunter. Because of his leadership, all the people believe that their hunters can fight against the enemy's invasion. However, no million-strong monster army emerges from the broken portal. And after waiting for a long time, only one person appears. The newcomer floats in the air, looking down at everyone. It is the monarch of destruction who rules over the dragons, Dragon King. The monarch of destruction leisurely descends in front of the top hunter and asks the familiar question, "Are you the king of this place?"